Okay, well, let's get started. I'm just gonna jump right in to a story because that's the best way for me to get comfortable, for everyone to get comfortable, for us all to come together. And I do better just being very real. So I wanted to share a little bit about, share this, and then I'll share a little bit more about who I am and what we're doing. So when I was about 12 years old, so my 10, 11, 12, so my sister was 9, 8, my my uncle was getting married, and it was my mother's brother. And very exciting, big wedding, very, very excited. My father, my grandfather, who was my uncle's father, my mom's brother, um, was the best man to my uncle's wedding, which is really cute. I personally think that he made his father the best man. So he was the best man to his wedding. And my father had the responsibility of taking both my grandfather and himself to the bachelor party in San Francisco. So this was like pre cell phones, pre all of that. And if it was, they hadn't gotten to our house yet. So in my mind, it was pre all of it. So my father was driving around, and I don't know if there was a confusion on the time or the restaurant or the location or all of the factors that I guess could come up in getting to a party, but he got lost, right? So he got lost, and he decided that him and his father-in-law, my grandfather, they would just stop, grab a bite to eat. Maybe that will clear their minds. It didn't. And then they just came home. So my father was too scared to come back to our home because he didn't want to face my mother knowing that he didn't get, one, to the bachelor party himself, or two, the best man and the father of the groom. So he stayed and went straight to my grandmother's house, which was like around the corner. And they stayed there for a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what happened. All I know is that I guess my grandmother, someone called my mom to let her know, Nick was here. They're both here, and they didn't make it. I'm not exactly sure what continued on next. All I know is that the phone ended up broken. So there was a lot of emotions clearly from what was on the phone, and then speaking between my mom and my dad. So it actually ended up being a pretty large fight, and which took like 2 weeks. It was like 2 weeks of not talking in my house, which was very odd because my house was not one for silence. If anything, it was quite the opposite. So this was very, very rare. In this fight, my mom and dad needed some space. So my mom took me and my sister and I up to the Russian River. I personally, again, I'm like 11, 12, so I'm thrilled. I was like, whoa, we're going on vacation. Like, we get a vacation once a year. This is exciting. This is exciting. So we get up there, and it was like we stayed at this little place that had like little cabin cottages. So it was great. And we unpack and we go straight to the little cottage area for like the entertainment center. So there was like a billiards pool, a TV, a vending machine, and another phone. So once we get there, my mom, being my mother, calls my father to be like, just so you know, this is where we are. I'm with your children. We are here. We will be here for another day or two just for space, but I don't want you to worry. So this is the details. Again, I don't know exactly what my father said, but he must have said something along the lines of, it didn't make too much of a difference, or he was nonchalant about it. Because all I know is that my mother then started slamming the phone down in that area too. So my sister and I were like, uh-oh, I'm just watching, and we're in a public spot. There's like another gentleman who was watching the TV. This man did not turn around for a second. Like, he knew better than to turn around and see what was going on, because no one really knew what was going on except for there was a young mom and two children who were very upset. So my mom didn't break the phone or anything like that, but slammed it down, and she was so upset. Right next to it, we were at a vending machine. So she puts in $1 to get a Hershey's chocolate bar. And this was exciting. Again, this is a treat for us. Like, we didn't eat soda. We didn't drink soda. We didn't get candy. We didn't get really any of that. We got water and milk because that was what was always included with families' meals. And so again, I was like, yay, this is exciting. We're getting chocolate. So the Hershey's bar starts to come out, and it gets stuck, so it doesn't fall out. And that's where my mom really lost it. Like, she broke down. She just broke down, and she started shaking the vending machine, and she's going to, screaming at it, kind of screaming at it in Spanish. I don't know if you could really hear the yelling because it was the shaking of a vending machine and the ruckus that makes alone. But all of a sudden, like 12 chocolate bars fall out. So my sister and I are just like this. And we look at my mom, and my mom looks at us, and she just says, grab them. And we just grabbed all the chocolate bars and we ran back to the room. And then I remember like plopping these like 8, I probably grabbed like 8 of them because I was like, I'm not, you don't need to tell me twice to grab chocolate, you know? So I like dropped 8 chocolate bars on this bed, and we laughed and laughed and laughed about it. And we had a great trip. We had a great trip. And to this day, we'll talk about it and we'll be like, oh, remember when you shook the vending machine and all the chocolate bars came out? And my mom's like, oh yeah, you guys, do you guys remember the chocolate bar? And we laugh and smile and laugh about it. And it ended up being fantastic. That night, there was even a meteor shower, actually. And my mom took us outside, and we were up in the Russian River. So it was like all nature-y, and it was beautiful, seeing shooting stars. And I just remember my mom being like, do you see him, Trompe? That's what my parents called me. I was like, yeah. So it was a blast. It was actually a blast. So when I'm thinking about Café con Leche and what this space is and what I can bring to this space and what we can all bring is, I wanted to bring a story that shows love at the core, even amidst of chaos, even amidst of arguing, of conflict, of external things that were above me, that had nothing to do with me. But because of our culture, because of who we were, because of the family, just because of who we were, and this family that was pure love all the time, it was a great story. And I remember it fondly. And that's kind of what I want to bring to this space. And I just want to elevate the space and make the space for love, even in chaos, even in craziness, even in things that are above us and don't make sense, even though they affect us. That's what I know. That's what I know from lived experience. That's what I know from my culture. That's what I've seen from everyone. I've seen harder work, such hard work that it causes me conflicts in my life now. So much hard work and so much love, an abundance of love, so much love that it doesn't feel like anything's wrong. And when I think of that story, that's really what I remembered. I don't really remember the fight. I don't remember anything. I don't remember why we went up to the Russian River. I remember a ton of chocolate, a ton of laughter, shooting stars, and a trip, which is perfect. So this is Café con Leche. I'm Melissa Ferrer. I'm the creator of Café con Leche. And Café con Leche has really evolved into something different than what it started, which shows it must be a great thing. And Café con Leche is my baby, really. If I'm very honest, this is my baby. This is where I've been able to put a ton of love and just pour love straight into this space and make this space. And I'm so humbled, and I feel so trusted and respected really, to be able to have the power to make a space that everyone here thus makes space for. That is real power. That is changing systems. That is changing the culture, changing the narrative. That's everything. That is everything. That is actually, from what we talked off earlier in another earlier meeting, that is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. This is equity, inclusion, and belonging to its core. Café con Leche, from start to finish, is person of color made, is Peruvian American created, woman created. There's so much for that, it leaves me speechless. It honestly leaves me speechless. When I turned 13 years old, my mom was making me breakfast that morning, and she said, and I was sitting down in the breakfast nook and I could see her cooking, and she turned to me and she said, would you like a café con leche? And I wasn't allowed to drink coffee at that time. So I said, what? And she was like, yes, you're 13 now. It's very age appropriate. Would you like a café con leche? And I was like, yes, I would. And that's the first time she made me a café con leche. And I remember her bringing it to me in these green mugs, Starbucks mugs, and putting them down, and me taking my first sip. And I honestly didn't like it very much, actually. I was like, this isn't as sweet as I thought it was going to be. But To me, that was freedom. That was adulthood. That was womanhood. That was, I made it. You know, that was big. That was café con leche with your breakfast. That's real. So when I was naming this, it actually came to me pretty quickly as to why I would call it café con leche. I would call it café con leche because I was drinking a café con leche when I made it. As I was deciding, and I was like, what are we gonna name this? I just looked down and I was like, oh, café con leche. Because that's me. That is what I grew up on. That is my favorite drink. And it's different. A café con leche also, and I even brought a prop to really teach. A café con leche comes with leche de taro, which is evaporated milk from a can. Like, this is, to me, what café con leche. This is different than a latte. This is Kirkland brand. It's not as exciting. I would always recommend the Carnation, but I don't know what Costco did, so this is what we take now. So I often find that my culture, my language, English, Spanish, it's very marketed. It's always marketed, actually. And yet the profit of those funds and who really benefits from that marketing is rarely actually the people of that culture. So there's also a very strong pride that I named this café con leche, because this is real. This is real because this was created from someone real, really representative of that, of this culture, really representative of me, really representing me, representing diversity, equity, inclusion, and true belonging. Belonging so much that you can create. That's game changing. So that's kind of the vibe I'm making. This is what this space is about. This space is about pure love. At RCF, we talk a lot about what our values are and what we stand in: courage, love. And someone said, yours might be equity, yours might not be love, yours might be equity. And I was thinking about this and I was like, what are my values? Like, this is really challenging me to really think about who I am as a human, which is very different than like who I am, Melissa Ferrer, development manager, my title. And I realized that my value is actually is puro amor. And it's a little different, and it's different than regular love. And it isn't just love in Spanish, it is pure love. Puro amor being exclusively love, solely love. The love that I grew up in, this love that is so abundant, that fires, that lights you from inside so much that you don't even realize the chaos you're in, because you're just having a blast and you're laughing and you're smiling. And that is so necessary to heal. The space to do that, where you can like do that, is, you can't heal without that. So that's what this space is. That's what Café con Leche is. Elevating real stories, real game changers, showing what a leader is, and making the space to make space. That's how we build capacity. That's how we change, culture shift, truly shift power, making the space for space. So without further ado, I would like to introduce AnDrea Neal, Kacey Carterelliott, and Estela Nuñez, who make up our Mobility Labs leaders. You'll be hearing from them shortly. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart, from el fondo de mi corazón, from real deep, of thank you for making the space to come to this space, because this space was created with a lot of love and a lot of opinions and a lot of thoughts, and weaved inculcated into the fabrics of what it is. So thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Miss Kelly Robinson, who will be facilitating this space, who's clearly a woman I was divinely meant to meet. And thank you all.
Thank you, Melissa. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here. For about the next half hour, I am going to be facilitating a dialogue with this team of women who are really the frontline, on the ground leaders on Mobility Labs. And they're going to tell you the story of their experience in Mobility Labs. And then at the end of that, maybe the last 15 minutes or so, I'd like to ask you, those of you that have come to hear this story, about your insights and takeaways and what you heard And if you have any questions for this team of leaders. So I want to just keep in our hearts and in our minds the chocolate, the family, the exclusively love, the meteor shower, the history and the pride, created from something, real, belonging, and space for space. This first question is for all three of you leaders, Estela, AnDrea, and Kacey. When you think about the history of your work together as a team, the three of you, what's the power that you have together as a team?
Work team. We work together, doesn't exclude nobody. And I think it's the best because we can feel we are a team. That is not only a person to doesn't chart the other ones.
I would definitely agree, loyalty. And we give each other space to speak our truths. And we value each other's opinions on, and even though we may not always agree, but we appear that it agrees because we incorporate it in what we do every day.
Love and compassion. We're very passionate about what we do. We have compassion for others, and we definitely love what we do.
What's been your greatest success together as a team?
I would say building trust amongst each other and also building that trust with the community that we serve. Providing a safe place for them to feel free to be who they are, to speak their truths, and to focus on their needs and not what we think their needs are.
I agree, AnDrea. That is the best thing, build the trust. Because if we doesn't trust what I'm doing, nothing more happen. Because if you doesn't believe in what are you doing, you can do nothing.
Respect for whatever place you're in and whatever statement you're making at the time, whether it agrees or disagrees with what whomever in the group says, especially if you disagree with myself, and even in community, the diversity, the out of the box thinking. We're not here to fix somebody's language. We're not here to fix people. We're here just to empower people and empower each other. And I think that's where a lot of times projects and companies make their mistake, and people make their mistake. They want to fix somebody because they don't agree with them, or they say something very passionately and you assume that, oh, they're upset. And maybe they're not upset. They may just be disappointed maybe in what you just said or what was just said, but they don't need to be fixed. We need to get out of that mindset that because someone's passionate about something and open and honest about something, there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong. Just let it sit where it sits and let it be what it be. It'll be good. You'll be all right.
Mm. Now we hear a lot about mobility labs. We hear about a lot about the cohort. We hear about the community. Can you tell us, who are we talking about? Who are these people, these women these community members. And of course, we aren't going to give names, but if you could just tell us, who are these folks in Mobility Labs? What are some of the stories?
For me, a group of women who look like me, a group of women who have been where I've been, where I'm at, a group of women looking to be empowered, be inspired, and to be able to, I would say, grow. Like they've been stagnant for so long because they feel that's where I have to be because this is where I am. And I think through Mobility Labs, we are inspiring them and empowering them that we all can do better and let's do it together.
And I think we are speaking about a lot of women who wants to make a change in the community. And a lot of them, they want to make changes for their family, for her daughters, her sons. Every person in the family can have like a better future. And they have a lot of expectations. And if they are in the community training or leading training, it's because they want to be better person. That's not only for them, that's only for everyone that's close.
For me, community, Mobility Labs community is my sister and my brother, my cousin and my uncle, my aunt, my mom, my father, my grandfather, my ancestors. That's what community is. That's what Mobility Labs is. Not male or female. It just is. And it is us that's on the screen right now. It's all of us. So I don't have one person that I could identify out of the group of hundreds of people that I've talked to since 2019. I see the community as an entity, as us. And all they need is us to respect them. They're not asking for us to give them anything. They're not asking for a handout. They're really asking for our respect and to really honestly look at the systems and the things that are in place that prevents the mobility out of poverty.
What is mobility? What does that mean to the folks who are receiving services in this program?
Movement. They're moving beyond. They may still be in the same place physically, but mentally, they're growing and they're changing. And the change is benefiting, as Estela said earlier, and Kacey, is benefiting their entire family. And when it benefits their family, it will also benefit the neighborhood, their community as well.
Yeah, AnDrea, I'm agree. That's move, grow, be better. Doesn't stack and something doesn't help you at all. Like that is move. That's the word for me. Move.
And one other thing, they had a saying that was on there when they had their that we were reading over their paperwork, and one thing has stuck out to me since then, and it said, those closest to the situation, no, those are closest to the challenge are closest to the solution. And who not make change but the people that are in that situation. So that has stuck with me, and that's part of what I try to do when I do, talk to the community You know, you guys know exactly what needs to be done. Teach us so we can see how we can help you make that change.
Mobility is a bucket of verbs to me. It's not just one thing, it's a bucket of verbs. It's a whole bunch of movement going on, like AnDrea said. It's like getting an elephant off the ground. There's more than one thing you have to do to get an elephant off the ground. So there's a bucket of stuff, of things that occur in mobility and the upward movement out of poverty. There's more than just one thing that needs to happen.
Thank you for that. By way of introduction, I want to just pivot really quickly to see if I could ask you, Jim, to give just a very quick kind of overview of RCF and also what Mobility Labs is for folks who may have little or no background.
Thank you, Kelly. Well, no one speaks better to it than the team you're hearing from, but the idea behind Mobility Labs is it is a national effort in partnership with the Robin Hood Foundation, the Gates Foundation, and Tipping Point to think about how we can increase the mobility of people out of poverty, not just by providing the services that we normally provide, like job training and financial services, but by adding components that allow for the building of community power and voice and a sense of community belonging. And with that, does that sort of move people and build people and empower people in ways that simply providing direct services has not been? And I think that's really the difference behind it. And what the RCF team has done, which I'm so proud of, is they have worked with the residents of the community. And ultimately, this resident leadership group and the residents of the community are actually going to decide and purchase the services that they want coming into their neighborhood. So that really shifts things in a new fundamental way. And I'm so proud of the team on that.
Thank you, Jim. So AnDrea, this question is for you. I'm curious if you will tell us the story about your intersection with Mobility Labs from the perspective of your trip to New York. What was that like, and how did it bring you closer to this project?
Yeah, the trip to New York was totally unexpected. I'm like, these people don't even know me. They sending me all the way to New York. And, so when we got there, I thought it was going to be a culture shock for me, but it wasn't. It felt like I was at home when we went to the different areas, Queens, the Bronx. It just felt like home. Like, this is what I see every day in Antioch, in Oakland, in the Bay Area. And when we went to the convening, it was so much information, listening to Stacey Abrams speak, Wes Moore, it was so many people and it was so much information. But the part that really stuck with me was when I learned about redlining. I had never heard about redlining before. And it made me think, when my grandmother purchased her home, it was in a nice area, but the neighborhood maybe 2 blocks away from her was even better. And I just wondered, was it that she couldn't afford it, or, what was? So what we found out with the redlining, you were only allowed to purchase a home as a Black woman in a certain area. And so it just made me start thinking, like I said, it was a variety of different things that occurred in New York, but it made me want to come back home and be part of a change. Like, we have to be like this, or somebody told us we have to be like this. So I figured with me, I never knew I had a voice in the community until I began to use it. And I will forever be grateful to RCF for allowing me to do that. So just that experience taught me that all over the world this exists, and all over the world we need to make a change for it to be better.
So Kacey, one of the things that's really different and innovative about this program is that you all are using certain kinds of things like inclusion of community voice, cultural competence, et cetera, in planning and the way that you're implementing. Can you share a little bit of details about some of the ways that you all are doing things that are really setting you apart and innovating with this program?
We're asking instead of telling. If you're brave enough to do it, first you got to get over your fear of control. But we're asking, we're looking in people's eyes and asking the question of what their needs are, rather than coming together and telling them what we perceive it is. We're meeting with them where they are, and we're going into the community. Like example, the kickoff. There was a consistency and understanding that to enable to this to go and get started in the level that it needed to go, and they needed tools. And they needed to be supplied laptops because they were using their telephones, and they didn't have the tools needed to even be in the meeting, no longer than attend the meeting physically. And we're sheltered in place. So we're recognizing things that they need, but we're asking before we make any step to fix it. That's a total different mind shift in the nonprofit environment. Ask and not tell.
What about this idea of having the whole front team, the core team, be of color, servicing this community of color? Can you talk a little bit about that and what impact that's having as far as you see?
Is that for me?
Yes.
I can go on. Let me tell you, Melissa told the story earlier. I have a daughter. I was a gifted child. That's a whole nother story, the experience I had. It's not a pretty one. But talking my history, repeating itself, my daughter was in the second grade, which is 40 some years ago. And her teacher was Mrs. Henderson, a Black woman. First Black woman I ever seen in Mount Diablo School District as a teacher. I think she was the only one, and this was in the late 70s. And Tish didn't talk because Tish read early as a child. Tish did a whole bunch of stuff early as a kid, knew her numbers. When she went into school, preschool, she was just a gifted child. She's like her mom. So what they were gonna do for her in second grade was hold her back and put her in IEP and in special ed because she wouldn't talk. And by the time she got to Mrs. Henderson, they were trying to make the decision and call me in to put her in a special needs class. Mrs. Henderson called me on the phone and her and I talked, and she said, I need your permission to send Tish. I know what's wrong with her, but I need your permission to send Tish to the school psychologist. And she went, and they came back and they said, well, this is what Tish said. She was bored in the classroom, and the kids in the classroom needed more help than she did. Without that Black teacher understanding where my child was, my child would be in special needs. She would be in a classroom with kids that couldn't read and couldn't write. Only because in the Caucasian world, if a Black child doesn't look and talk, and Black children, Black adults, whoever they are, people of color, if they don't live up to your standards of what that person should do, then you tell them there's something wrong with them. That's an automatic. I have two children that went through the same thing, and they're 4 years apart, and I went through it and I'm 67 years old. So it's still alive in color. My grandson is going through it. And it is so valuable to have people of color in your environment that have lived experience that will voice and will come and be present when we are pulling people out of the graves of poverty, to show them that it is, you can do this. And look at me, I look like you. I'm not massa. I'm not going to be enslaving you. I'm not going to punish you for your color of the skin because of what my ideologies are. Because there's nothing wrong with the way you think because of the color of your skin. It's just that when you let it get in the way of your humanity, when you let it get in the way of how you treat other people, then it becomes an issue. And it stops that person from being who they are because you're killing their dreams because you want them to be what you want them to be, and they can't. I can't be you, and I don't want you to fix me.
Estela, how has your own life changed as a result of your participation as a leader in the Mobility Labs program?
That changed a lot because I have the opportunity to speak with the person who speak the same language than me. Like there is a couple ones who speak Spanish, and the first time when I'm speaking with one of those, she was so open to me, and I feel grateful because I feel she believed in me, and that making me a big change because I feel different. I feel when you have the opportunity to speak the same language and build the trust, that changed a lot in me. That changed a lot because I feel I can do and I can help. So that was a big change in me.
I'd like to open it up now and give the folks that have joined us today for Café con Leche a chance to ask some questions. But before I do that, I just would like to see if AnDrea, Kacey, or Estela, any one of you would like to say anything that I haven't asked.
I would like to say that because this is like important to me. Don't allow maybe your insecurities or maybe not knowing exactly what's going on prevent you from stepping forward, using your voice, and being part of a change. I think that is so powerful to me. And we all have a power. It's there. We just have to know how to get it. And I just thank the women that I work with because I really didn't know. I knew I had a power another kind of way, but not in a setting with people who didn't look like me. I did not want to use my voice like, these people don't look like me. They don't act like me. They don't come from where I come from. They're not going to even understand what I'm going to say. But they did. And they do. And when they don't, one thing I do love about RCF, and I will say Kacey, Stacy, Iris, they kind of call you out on your stuff. They will apologize if they say the wrong thing. And we're able to say, hey, what you said did not make me feel good, or I didn't like what you said. And they change it. So for me, that's important because they could just easily say, okay, girl, I'm your boss. I could say what I want, but that's not what they do. So I just, and I've learned in this setting that I cannot judge. I have to be curious. And that's where I stand today. I don't judge. I'm learning not to judge and just be curious. So that was mine. Thank you.
Another thing I want to add is they people believe in us a lot because they start changing too. They make change in us, but we are changing them too. Because that is another lady, she doesn't speak at all when we start with the meetings. And now if you ask something to her, she starts to speak like that. She feels free. She is like comfortable. She's like, I don't know. I'm so happy and see that change, because that is not only for us, that's for them too. Because we can see the engagement that has with us, because they are looking for us, they are looking for the things we are making. And the good thing is, in the first meetings, we ask because we don't want to assume. So that's the one of the best parts. We doesn't assume nothing. We need to hear for them and make the change for them. Thank you.
I have one. Do you have time for me, Kelly?
Of course, please.
Okay, I just have one thing. I went virtually back to New York on the 24th to the No City Limits Robin Hood convening. And there was one thing, well, there's several things that struck me, but there was one thing that was profound. I love The Wizard of Oz. I really do. And this took me to The Wizard of Oz. And this is the statement that one of the speakers made. I forgot who it was. It is possible to eradicate disparities in our lifetime. We need the courage to address issues that prevent us from addressing the issues that come up. We need to be brave enough to peek behind the curtain. And I could see the wizard pulling all these controls and all this manipulation that goes on behind the curtain, in the curtain. And we're thinking, oh, this is the great Oz. No, there's not. And then I could see Mobility Labs community peeking behind the curtain and realizing that it was this little man behind there that was so insecure, had all this big old curtain and all these things that I thought prevented me from being mobile, prevented me from being happy, prevented me from having the tools that I need to move out of poverty. They were all false. It was all smoke and mirrors. And that's all it was. And that's where I sit right now. I keep reminding myself that all it is the wizard. All it is Oz. All I got to do is put on my ruby slippers and click my heels twice, and it'll be all right. Thank you.
Thank you for your stories, Estela, AnDrea, and Kacey. From our guests this afternoon, curious if you would like to just say what your insights or takeaways are from what you've heard today, or if you have a question that you'd like to ask the Mobility Labs team. Of course, we only have about 13 minutes left, so either insights, takeaways, or a question if you have one.
Hello, everyone. This is Greg. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good, great. One of the takeaways I got was when the young ladies were speaking was being able to accept people in your community. And I thought that was even though sometimes we have a hard time doing that, but I mean, in order to make our community better, we have to be able to accept everyone where they are and be able to take away from the things that they bring to the community. And that was just one of the insights that I got and thought that I wanted to share.
Something that I was reminded of, I already knew this to be true, but I didn't have that verbiage, and I wrote it down, that those who are closest to the situation are closest to the solution. That is a powerful statement. And I think wherever we are, whatever we're doing, and whatever we're facing, if we keep that in mind, that we don't have to be the fixers. If I, Kay Lane Burnside, keep that in mind, I'll be able to do so much more if I don't feel that I'm the one who needs to fix it. And that was a powerful reminder. It wasn't something that I didn't know, but I had not heard it put quite that way. And it just touched my heart, and it freed me of a lot of what is going on in my own life. And I thank you for that.
Looks like Mary Kemp wanted to say something.
Thanks, Cynthia. One thing that I kind of heard over and over again in different ways was this idea of building community power, voice, and belonging. And really that it's all of our responsibility to contribute to that. And I have lots of notes written down, many wonderful insights I heard. So thank you for letting me be a part of this today.
So before I turn it back over to Melissa to close, I have one final question for Kacey, AnDrea, and Estela. What is your greatest hope for Mobility Labs and for the women that you are serving?
My greatest hope is the day that I step away, I can look back and say, damn, we did a good job, and look at the new leaders, new sheriffs in town. That's my thing, just knowing that when we step away, that we've done a great job, we've made an impact, and we've made a change.
For me, is to make a good and a great leaders, and they can make another ones, and they can be the first generation, but not the least or the last, because they can be more bigger than what I thought.
When they invite me to their first meeting and I'm gone and retired, and they send me a Zoom or whatever invite, and I just get to go be in the audience, just go, wow, look at that. Look at that. I'm gone, I'm not part of it. I'm just still praying for them. I'm still their biggest cheerleader, but when I get that invite, that's gonna be like my White House invitation. Yeah.
The three of you have filled this room up with this superpower of vibration, and we're not even in the room together. And the fact that I can feel it is how powerful it is. So thank you so much for your combined efforts, your individual efforts, and for concentrating on that and bringing it together here to inspire us and to leave us in a better way and in a better day. Thank you also for the opportunity to allow me to come and hear the story as well. Melissa, we will hand it back over to you for closing.
Well, thank you all. Yet again, thank you everyone for coming, for making the space for space, coming with open ears and hearts and eyes and everything, just holistically yourselves. Very real. So I would like to say, if anything resonated with you, if you would like more information on Mobility Labs, about what they do, what we do, what the community needs, how to help, maybe you have a question to ask, please get in contact with me. Get in contact with either me, because I know most of the people who are here, and if not, get in contact with who invited you, and they will get in contact with me, and I will get in contact with you, and we will begin to connect and do what RCF does, which is connect those pieces together. Into the chat, I am sending a link to an RCF video. It's a short clip, gives a little more information about us, about what we do, because Mobility Labs is one massive piece of huge impact, but just one piece. And this is a 5-part series, so each series will be sharing a different piece. So with that, again, thank you, Estela, Kacey, AnDrea, Kelly. These are our leaders. This is what our leaders look like. This is what they sound like. This is what they do. And I am so proud. I'm so honored, and I'm so humbled. So thank you. Thank you all for coming, and we will be sending more information about the next one.